You know what's funny about rich people? They never see the trap until it's too late. We only want important people at our wedding, Martin, not your immigrant friends. My daughter's fiancé just sealed his fate with 11 careless words. Ethan Caldwell, investment banker, old Boston money, Princeton graduate, standing in my modest living room Thursday night, dismissing 3 decades of sweat and sacrifice. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't defend myself. I just nodded slowly. That calm smile my construction crews know means someone's about to learn a very expensive lesson. See, Ethan thought he was talking to some lucky contractor. He had no idea the unimportant immigrant he was dismissing owned the relationships that would make or break his perfect $100,000 wedding. 24 hours later, his wedding would vanish, his reputation would crumble, and 150 guests would witness exactly who the important people really were. Subscribe to know how I made a $100 million empire disappear, his American dream, in one night. But first, let me show you how this played out. The disrespect didn't start Thursday night. It had been building for months, one small cut at a time. It began in March when Ethan first saw my guest list, 27 names, my construction crew, foreman, the guys who'd helped me build Sterling & Sons Construction from nothing. There was Jack Turner, who taught me American building codes when I spoke broken English. Michael Harris, who vouched for me when banks wouldn't look at an immigrant twice. These weren't just employees, they were brothers. Ethan had other ideas. "We're going to have to be selective about the guest list, Martin," he said one evening at my kitchen table, his arm tightly around my daughter's waist. "We want this to be an high-end affair." I watched my daughter's face during these conversations. Emily, my pride and joy, the first in our family to graduate college, would squirm uncomfortably, but never speak up. "Dad, maybe we should reconsider some of these invitations," my daughter Emily said gently, Ethan's arm around her shoulders. "The Caldwell family has certain expectations." Ethan nodded approvingly. "It's nothing personal, Martin, but a wedding reflects the families involved. We need to think about optics." Optics. That word would haunt me for weeks. By April, my list had been refined. The construction guys, gone. My poker buddies from the old neighborhood, gone. Even Mrs. Thompson, who'd watched Emily grow up while I worked 18-hour days, too informal for a Caldwell wedding. "We're keeping it intimate," Ethan explained, reviewing seating charts at my kitchen table. "Just family and people who matter." Love makes you blind, I told myself. She'll see eventually. But it got worse. In May, Ethan suggested I might want to upgrade my wardrobe for wedding-related events. He handed me a business card for his family's tailor. "Nothing offensive, Martin, but you'll be meeting some important people. First impressions matter." Important people. There was that phrase again. The real slap came during the wedding walkthrough at the Westchester Country Club in June. I'd paid the $500 deposit myself, money I'd earned laying brick in 100 degrees heat while Ethan was playing lacrosse at prep school. "This is Emily's father. He's in construction." The way he said it, like I built sewers instead of the luxury homes his friends lived in. But here's what Ethan didn't know about that country club. In 2019, Sterling & Sons Construction had renovated their entire east wing, $2 million worth of work. I knew every board member by name, had their personal cell numbers, had saved their hides when the original contractor walked off the job. I just smiled and hands shook. By July, the pattern was clear. Ethan was systematically erasing my life from his wedding. My business associates, gone. My church friends. Apparently, they might not understand the social dynamics. Even my own brother, David, a successful cardiologist, was questioned. Is he established in the community? Ethan had asked. David had been saving lives for 20 years, but apparently that wasn't established enough for the Caldwells. The final insult came 3 weeks ago. Ethan arrived at my house with revised seating charts. I found myself at table 12, in the back corner, next to the kitchen doors. Emily's mother, God rest her soul, would have been mortified. Her picture sat on the mantel, watching this entitled boy disrespect everything we'd built. "It's just logistics, Martin," Ethan said, not meeting my eyes. "The front tables are for immediate family and key business contacts." Key business contacts. I'd built a $120 million company from nothing. Sterling & Sons Construction employed 340 people, had completed 847 projects across 3 states. We'd built shopping centers, office complexes, luxury hotels. My company's logo was on construction sites from Manhattan to Albany, but I wasn't key business contact. That's when I started making phone calls. Quiet inquiries about Ethan Caldwell and Caldwell Investment Group. What I discovered made my blood run cold and my resolve crystal clear. Ethan wasn't just dismissing my background. He was hiding his own dirty secrets. Caldwell Investment Group managed $800 million in client assets, impressive on paper. But my private investigator, the same one I used for employee background checks, found some interesting discrepancies. Missing client funds, unexplained transfers, gambling debts totaling $400,000 to Atlantic City casinos. Ethan Caldwell, the man judging my worthiness, was embezzling from elderly clients to fund his lifestyle. The Securities and Exchange Commission had opened a formal investigation 2 months ago. Federal agents were building a case. Ethan's perfect wedding was happening just weeks before his perfect world would collapse. But he didn't know I knew. He thought he was marrying into money, my money, to solve his problems. The wedding was his last hurrah before the inevitable. Thursday night, when he stood in my living room and dismissed my immigrant friends, something clicked. This wasn't about social status anymore. This was about character. This was about a man who'd never earned anything, questioning the worth of a man who'd earned everything. Ethan thought he was dealing with just another immigrant contractor who'd gotten lucky. What he didn't realize was that luck had nothing to do with it. For 30 years, I'd built more than buildings. I'd built relationships, trust, respect, a reputation that opened doors and moved mountains. Friday morning, Ethan Caldwell would discover exactly how many mountains I could move and exactly how quickly his perfect wedding could disappear. Friday morning, 7:30 a.m. My phone rang while I was reviewing Sterling & Sons Construction's weekly reports. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. I always record my business calls. 30 years in construction taught me that people say things, then deny them later. Ethan was about to give me the gift of his own words. "Martin, we need to talk." His voice carried that entitled edge I'd grown to hate. "I've been thinking about yesterday's conversation." "Have you?" I said. "Now, look, I need you to understand something. This wedding isn't just about Emily and me. It's about 2 families coming together. The Caldwell name has meant something in Westchester for 4 generations." I stayed quiet. Let him dig his own grave. "My mother is hosting a pre-wedding dinner next Thursday. The guest list is selective. We're talking about people who've shaped this community, business leaders, political figures, old families." "I see. The thing is, Martin, your people, your friends from the construction site, they wouldn't be comfortable in that environment. And honestly, they might make other guests uncomfortable too." My grip tightened on the phone. "My people." "Don't take it personally. It's just reality. Look at the Hendersons. Their daughter married that tech entrepreneur last year. Beautiful wedding, but they kept the guest lists complimentary. His Silicon Valley crowd, her Greenwich Society friends, everyone stayed in their lane. Their lane. This boy was actually telling me to stay in my lane. Ethan, let me ask you something. What exactly do you think I do for a living? You're in construction. You do well for yourself, obviously. Emily mentioned you own your own company, Sterling and Sons Construction, right? And that's great, Martin. Really, my grandfather always said America needs skilled tradesmen. You've built a nice business. But this wedding, the people attending, we're talking about a different level of society. A different level of society.
The man was literally explaining social hierarchy to me like I was a child. Tell me about this different level, son. Well, there's my father's law partners, federal judges, the Whitman family, they own the largest bank in the county. Senator Morrison will be there. These are people who move markets, who influence policy. They speak a certain language. What language is that? The language of real power, Martin. Old money, established influence. Look, I'm not trying to be offensive, but there's a difference between new money and, well, money that's been refined over generations. Refined money, like wine in a cellar, getting better with age. So my money isn't refined enough. It's not about the money itself. It's about understanding how to use it, how to present yourself, how to navigate certain social waters. His voice softened, like he was explaining something to a confused immigrant. My family has been part of the Westchester establishment for over a century. We know these people. We understand their expectations. And honestly, I don't expect you to, and that's okay. You've achieved the American dream. You came here with nothing and built something. That's admirable. But Emily is marrying into a different world now, a world with different rules. The American dream. He said it like I'd won a participation trophy. Different rules. Exactly. Look, Martin, I need you to understand something. This marriage is Emily's chance to elevate herself, to become part of something bigger than where she came from. But that requires sacrifice. It requires leaving certain things behind. Certain things, like a father's history, like the people who'd helped build her life. What exactly are you asking me to do, Ethan? I'm asking you to think about what's best for Emily. Maybe you could host a separate celebration for your people, something more casual, a barbecue maybe, after the official wedding. That way everyone's included, but in appropriate settings. A barbecue for the unimportant people. And you think this is what Emily wants? Emily wants to fit in with her new family. She wants to be accepted, and she will be, as long as we're thoughtful about how we handle these transitions. Handle these transitions. Martin, I'm going to be very direct with you. This wedding is about Emily's future, our future. The Caldwell family has connections that could benefit her career, her social standing, her entire life trajectory. But that requires us to be strategic about associations. Associations to be managed. You know what, Ethan? You're absolutely right. This wedding should absolutely reflect the kind of people you and Emily associate with. Exactly. I knew you'd understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. In fact, I think I understand better than you do. Something in my tone must have changed because Ethan went quiet. Is everything okay, Ethan? Everything's perfect, son. You've made everything crystal clear. Good, good. So we're on the same page about the guest list adjustments? We're definitely on the same page about who belongs at this wedding. After I hung up, I sat in my office for 5 minutes listening to the recording play back. Every word, every insult, every casual dismissal of my life, my friends, my worth. Ethan had just given me 23 minutes of ammunition. More importantly, he'd given me moral permission for what came next. By noon, Ethan Caldwell would learn the difference between inherited privilege and earned power, the hard way. I made the decision at 11:47 a.m., staring at my daughter's graduation photo on my desk. Emily, valedictorian at Fordham Business School, the first Caldwell to wear a cap and gown. I worked double shifts for 4 years to pay her tuition, never missed a parent conference, never missed a graduation ceremony. That girl was my everything. But she deserved better than Ethan Caldwell. My phone buzzed. Emily calling. Dad, Ethan said you two had a good conversation this morning. He said you understood about the wedding arrangements. We definitely understood each other, sweetheart. Good. I know this has been complicated, but Ethan's family has certain traditions. And honestly, Dad, this could be really good for my career. His father's law firm represents some major corporations. There could be opportunities. Yes, Emily. Do you love him? Silence. Too long of a silence. Of course I love him, Dad. Why would you ask that? Because love doesn't ask you to be ashamed of where you came from. Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. I'm not ashamed, Dad. I'm trying to fit into his world, and sometimes that means making adjustments. Adjustments, just like her fiancé had said. Honey, let me ask you something. When you bring Ethan to our house, does he ask about the photos on the mantle? About your mother's story? About how we got here? Does he ask about the business? About the people who helped us? Does he want to know anything about the life that gave him the woman he claims to love? Silence. Ethan, a man who truly loves you doesn't ask you to erase your history. He celebrates it. It's not that simple, Dad. His family. They have expectations. And what about our family? What about our expectations? I heard her crying softly. My heart broke. Dad, I just want this to work. I want to be accepted. Baby girl, you don't need to be accepted by people who don't accept you as you are. After she hung up, I sat there for 10 minutes thinking about the man Emily was about to marry. A man who saw her father as a liability. A man hiding his own crimes while judging my character. A man who would spend their marriage teaching her to be ashamed of the very strength that made her extraordinary. That's when I opened my laptop and started making calls. First call, Marcus Webb, my private investigator. Marcus, I need everything you can get me on Ethan Caldwell and Caldwell Investment Group. Financial records, client complaints, SEC filings, everything. How fast do you need it? By 3 p.m. Jesus, Martin, that's pushing it. Push harder. There's a $10,000 bonus if you deliver. Second call, Westchester Country Club. Hello, Mrs. Chen. This is Martin Sterling from Sterling & Sons Construction. I need to discuss the Caldwell-Sterling wedding booking. Yes, I know it's short notice. No, there's been a family emergency. The conversation lasted 12 minutes. Mrs. Chen was apologetic but understanding. The $500 deposit would be fully refunded due to the circumstances. Third call, Four Seasons, Westchester. Mr. Rodriguez, Martin Sterling, we did your kitchen renovation in 2019. That's right, the one that came in under budget and ahead of schedule. I need a favor. The Four Seasons had been Ethan's backup venue. The presidential suite he'd reserved for $2,800 a night was suddenly unavailable due to a plumbing emergency that would require extensive work by Sterling & Sons Construction. Fourth call, Glen Island Harbor Club. This one was personal. I'd built their entire marina in 2018, saving them $400,000 when the original contractor tried to cut corners with substandard materials. The owner, Bill Patterson, owed me more than money. He owed me his reputation. Bill, it's Martin. I need the Caldwell wedding booking canceled. No, I can't explain right now. Yes, I know it's your biggest event this quarter. Bill, trust me on this one. By 2 p.m., Ethan Caldwell's perfect wedding venues were disappearing one by one, but I wasn't done. At 2:45 p.m., Marcus called back. Martin, you're not going to believe what I found. Ethan Caldwell is in deep. The SEC has been investigating Caldwell Investment Group for 8 months. Client fund misappropriation, we're talking $2.3 million in suspicious transfers. Keep going. It gets worse. The guy's gambling debts, big ones, $400,000 to 3 different casinos. There's chatter he's been using client money to cover losses. When does this go public? FBI raid is scheduled for Monday morning. Arrest by Tuesday. Ethan Caldwell had 1 weekend left as a free man. 1 weekend to learn what happens when you disrespect the wrong immigrant. Friday, 3:15 p.m. Ethan's panic started with a phone call from his wedding planner. I know because Emily called me 20 minutes later, her voice shaken. Dad, something weird is happening. Ethan just got a call from the wedding planner. The country club canceled our booking. They said there was a family emergency. But that doesn't make sense. We had contracts. That is strange, honey. And the Four Seasons just called too. They said there's a plumbing issue in the presidential suite. Major repairs needed. They're refunding our deposit. I made sympathetic noises while reviewing my construction company's client list. 30 years of building relationships was about to pay dividends. Dad, Ethan is freaking out. He's calling everyone he knows trying to find another venue, but everything good is booked months in advance. I'm sure he'll figure something out. What Ethan didn't know, what nobody knew except me, was exactly how deep Sterling & Sons construction ran in Westchester County. We hadn't just built buildings, we'd built the infrastructure of the county's entire social life. 3:45 p.m. My phone rang. Mr. Sterling, this is Jennifer from Glen Island. I wanted to personally apologize about the Caldwell wedding cancellation. Mr. Patterson explained there were family circumstances. I appreciate you calling, Jennifer. And Mr. Patterson wanted me to tell you that if you need anything else, anything at all, just call. Bill Patterson understood loyalty. When his marina project had hit permitting problems in 2018, I'd been the one to fix them. I'd personally walked the plans through City Hall, called in favors, smoothed the way. The Harbor Club had opened on schedule because of relationships I'd spent decades building. 4:20 p.m., Emily called again. Now she sounded scared. Dad, 3 more venues just canceled. The Rye Golf Club, Sleepy Hollow Country Club, even the Maritime Aquarium in Norwalk. They all have different excuses, but Ethan says this can't be a coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a masterclass in leverage. Rye Golf Club. Sterling & Sons Construction had built their new clubhouse in 2020. The project manager still sent me Christmas cards. Sleepy Hollow. We'd renovated their entire pro shop after the 2019 flood, saving them $200,000 by working around their tournament schedule. Maritime Aquarium. My company had installed their new HVAC system. The curator's daughter worked in my accounting department. Ethan thinks someone is sabotaging us, Dad. He's talking about hiring a private investigator. That seems extreme, honey. Is it? Dad, Ethan asked me something today. He asked if you knew people at these venues, if you had connections. I stayed quiet. Dad, what did you tell him? I said you were just a construction contractor, that you wouldn't have that kind of influence. Just a construction contractor. Even my own daughter had bought into Ethan's narrative. Emily, let me ask you something. In 30 years, how many buildings do you think Sterling & Sons Construction has worked on? I don't know. Dozens? 847 completed projects. Shopping centers, office buildings, restaurants, hotels, country clubs, private homes. We've employed over 600 people over the years, subcontractors, suppliers, vendors. We've done business with every major construction supply company from here to Albany. Silence. When you build someone's dream, Emily, they remember. When you save their project, solve their problems, deliver on time and under budget, they remember. When you employ their sons, hire their cousins, sponsor their Little League teams, they remember. Dad, what are you saying? I'm saying that maybe Ethan doesn't understand what 30 years of honest work actually builds. 5:30 p.m., Ethan called me directly. His voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the panic underneath. Martin, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Of course. Do you have business relationships with any of the venues we've been looking at? I've done work for various clients over the years. Why? Because 7 venues canceled our wedding today. 7. That doesn't happen by accident. That does seem unusual. Martin, I need to know.
Are you interfering with my wedding? The question hung in the air. Ethan Caldwell, the man who'd spent months explaining to me how unimportant I was, now suspected I had the power to dismantle his perfect day. Ethan, let me ask you something. Yesterday you told me I didn't understand important people. Today you're asking if I have enough influence to affect your wedding. Which is it? Silence. I mean, according to you, I'm just an immigrant contractor who got lucky. How could someone like me possibly have connections to 7 different high-end venues? Martin, unless of course you were wrong about what I built here. Unless 30 years of hard work actually earned me something more than luck. I could practically hear him sweating. Look, if there's been some kind of misunderstanding, no misunderstanding, Ethan. You've been very clear about your opinion of me, and I've been very clear about understanding exactly where I stand. What do you want? There it was. The question that proved Ethan Caldwell finally understood who held the power. I want you to have exactly the wedding you deserve, son. Exactly the wedding that reflects who you really are. Meaning what? Meaning a man who builds his life on other people's money while hiding his own crimes probably shouldn't be throwing elaborate parties. Dead silence. That's right, Ethan. I know about Caldwell Investment Group. I know about the SEC investigation. I know about your gambling debts. I know exactly who you really are. You can't prove anything. Monday morning, the FBI will prove plenty. But don't worry about Monday. Worry about tomorrow. Because tomorrow, 150 guests are going to discover that the man judging everyone else's worth isn't worth himself. I hung up. Ethan Caldwell had asked for important people at his wedding. Tomorrow, he'd get them. FBI agents counted as important people, didn't they? Saturday morning, 8:15 a.m. Ethan showed up at my office unannounced. I was reviewing blueprints when my secretary buzzed me. Mr. Sterling, there's an Ethan Caldwell here to see you. He seems agitated. Send him in. Ethan walked through my office door like he owned the place, but his confidence was cracking. Designer suit wrinkled, hair disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. This was a man who hadn't slept. We need to talk. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Have a seat. He remained standing, trying to project authority in a room that screamed my success. Awards on the walls, photos of construction projects, a framed copy of my first building permit from 1995, the American dream made tangible. You think you're clever, don't you? I leaned back in my chair. I think I'm thorough. 11 venues, Martin. 11. Every single backup option we had, gone overnight. That's unfortunate. Cut the crap. You did this. Did what, exactly? His hands were shaking. Ethan, yesterday you told me I was just a lucky contractor. Today you're crediting me with controlling every venue in Westchester. Make up your mind. He started pacing, caged animal energy. This isn't a game, Martin. Emily is devastated. Her dream wedding is ruined because you can't handle being excluded from the cool kids table. Excluded from the cool kids table. Still talking to me like I was a child. Sit down, Ethan. Something in my tone made him freeze. I said, sit down. He sat. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a manila folder. 47 pages of SEC investigation documents. Ethan's eyes went wide when he recognized the federal letterhead. Let's talk about games, son. You've been playing a big one. $2.3 million in client funds, 12 separate transactions, all to cover gambling debts at Atlantic City casinos.
His face went white. Margaret Hoffman, 82 years old, retirement account. You transferred $180,000 to your personal trading account. Told her it was a high-yield investment. You can't prove Robert and Susan Chen, both in their 70s. Their grandson's college fund, $240,000. Gone. I slid another document across the desk. Bank records showing wire transfers to the Borgata casino. Here's what I find interesting, Ethan. You spent months telling me about important people, refined money, social standing. But the whole time you're stealing from elderly clients to fund your gambling addiction. It's not stealing, it's temporary liquidity management. Temporary liquidity management. Even facing federal charges, he was speaking in euphemisms. The FBI doesn't see it that way. Neither do your clients. Neither do the federal prosecutors who've been building this case for 8 months. How did I get this information? Same way I got the venue cancellations. Relationships, Ethan. Real relationships, built on trust and respect, not inherited connections or social climbing. He leaned forward, desperate. Look, Martin, maybe we can work something out. The wedding, Emily deserves to suffer for our disagreements. Emily deserves better than you. I love her. You love her money, my money. You thought marrying Emily would solve your financial problems, give you access to Sterling & Sons Construction's assets, let you pay back what you stole before anyone noticed. His silence confirmed everything. Here's what's going to happen, Ethan. Monday morning, FBI agents will arrest you for wire fraud, embezzlement, and securities violations. Your assets will be frozen. Your reputation will be destroyed. Your family name will be synonymous with financial crime. And Emily will discover she dodged a bullet. Instead of marrying a criminal, she'll be free to find a man who deserves her. Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Ethan played his last desperate card. I was having coffee when Emily called, her voice brittle with anxiety. Dad, have you seen Ethan's Instagram? I opened my laptop. Ethan had posted a video 30 minutes ago. Professional lighting, composed expression, sitting in what looked like his family's study, old money staging at its finest. My friends, I need to address some disturbing developments regarding my wedding today. It's come to my attention that certain individuals have used unethical business practices to interfere with private family celebrations. The comments were already flooding in. Caldwell family friends expressing outrage, society connections offering support, old Westchester money circling the wagons. Without naming names, he continued, I want everyone to know that intimidation and business coercion will not be tolerated. The Caldwell family has served this community for 4 generations. We will not be bullied by those who mistake wealth for class. Wealth for class. Ethan was doubling down on social hierarchy, even while facing federal charges. Emily was crying. Dad, people are sharing it. Ethan's friends, his family's connections, they're saying terrible things about new money, about immigrants who don't understand American values. American values. From a man who had stolen $2.3 million from elderly clients. The comments are getting worse, Dad. Someone posted photos of our house, calling it immigrant gaudy. They're saying you're jealous of old American families. I scrolled through the responses. Margaret Caldwell, Ethan's mother, had shared the post with her own commentary. Some people never learn their place in society, no matter how much money they acquire. Their place in society. Then I saw something interesting. Senator Morrison had liked the post. The same Senator Morrison who'd been at several Sterling & Sons ribbon cuttings, praising my company's contribution to local economic development. 11 a.m. My phone rang. Bill Patterson from Glen Harbor Club. Martin, I'm seeing some social media activity. People are questioning your character, your business practices. Some of my board members are concerned about our association. I understand, Bill. Look, I've known you for years. You're solid. But this Caldwell kid has connections, real connections. Federal judges, senators, old families with serious influence. If this gets ugly, it's already ugly, Bill. The question is whether you believe in what I've built or what Ethan Caldwell inherited. A pause. What aren't you telling me, Martin? Monday morning, Ethan Caldwell will be arrested by the FBI. Wire fraud, embezzlement, and securities violations. He's stolen over $2.3 million from elderly clients to cover gambling debts. Jesus Christ, Martin, you're sure about this? I have the federal investigation documents, 47 pages of evidence, banking records, wire transfers, client complaints. Ethan Caldwell is a criminal who's been using his family name to cover his crimes, and he's trying to destroy your reputation to save his own. Exactly. 11:45 a.m. I made my own social media post. Not a video, just text, simple and direct. To the Westchester community. Tomorrow, federal agents will arrest Ethan Caldwell for embezzling $2.3 million from elderly clients. Before you judge immigrant values versus American values, ask yourself which values include stealing from grandparents to fund gambling addictions. I attached one document, a bank record showing Ethan's $180,000 transfer from Margaret Hoffman's retirement account to his personal Vegas gambling expenses. The response was immediate. Margaret Caldwell called Ethan's post fake news and demanded I retract my libelous accusations. Senator Morrison quietly unliked Ethan's video. 3 board members from various venues called to confirm our business relationships remain solid. But the real shift came at noon when Robert Chen, the elderly client whose grandson's college fund Ethan had stolen, shared my post with his own story. This man destroyed my family's future for poker chips. 73 years in America, built a small restaurant empire, saved every dollar for education. Ethan Caldwell stole my grandson's Harvard dreams for blackjack tables. Then Susan Hoffman posted, "My husband died believing his retirement was secure. Ethan Caldwell spent our life savings at casinos while I ate cat food to pay medical bills." 12 more victims came forward within 2 hours. Elderly immigrants, working-class families, middle-class retirees, all robbed by the man who had been lecturing me about American values. The comment sections flipped. Ethan's society friends went silent. The narrative shifted from immigrant overreach to criminal exposed. 2 p.m. Ethan posted again. The composed mask was gone, replaced by raw desperation. "These accusations are completely false. My lawyers will address these defamatory statements. My family's reputation will not be destroyed by jealous competitors who—" The video cut off mid-sentence. At 2:03 p.m., 3 black SUVs pulled into the Caldwell family driveway. FBI agents, arriving 18 hours early. Someone had tipped them off that Ethan might flee. That someone might have been a concerned citizen who'd provided evidence of ongoing financial crimes. That concerned citizen might have been an immigrant contractor who understood the difference between inherited privilege and earned justice. Saturday, 2:30 p.m. While FBI agents searched the Caldwell estate, I was having the most important conversation of my life. Emily sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Ethan had dismissed my immigrant friends 2 days ago. Her wedding dress hung upstairs, never to be worn. Her dreams were crumbling, but her eyes were finally clear. "Dad, I need to know everything." I spread the documents across the kitchen table like a dealer laying out cards. Bank records, SEC filings, client testimonies, gambling receipts. 2 years of Ethan Caldwell's criminal activity documented in black and white. Margaret Hoffman, 82 years old. Ethan convinced her to move her retirement account to Caldwell Investment for better returns. Then he transferred $180,000 to cover losses at the Borgata Casino. Emily studied Mrs. Hoffman's bank statements, her hands shaking. She trusted him. They all trusted him. Robert and Susan Chen, both in their 70s. Their grandson's college fund, $240,000, gone. How long have you known? I suspected something Thursday night.
Ethan was too eager to marry into money, too desperate to access Sterling & Sons Construction's assets. So I hired Marcus Webb to investigate. Uncle Marcus, your old army buddy who became a private investigator, one of those unimportant immigrant friends Ethan didn't want at the wedding. The irony wasn't lost on her. The man Ethan had dismissed as unworthy had provided the evidence that would
Destroy him. Marcus found the SEC investigation on Friday morning. The gambling debts, the pattern of client fund theft. Ethan thought he was marrying a rich man's daughter to solve his problems. Emily was quiet for a long moment, processing the betrayal. Not just Ethan's betrayal of his clients, but his betrayal of her. He never loved me, did he? Honey, Dad, be honest. He saw dollar signs, didn't he? Saw Sterling & Sons' value and thought he'd found his solution. I nodded. Truth was better than comfort. 3 weeks ago, Ethan asked me about making you a partner in Caldwell Investment Group after the wedding. Said it would combine our family's business interests. I thought it was romantic, but he was planning to use our money to pay back what he'd stolen. Emily stood up and walked to the window. Outside, news vans were gathering. Word was spreading about the FBI raid. The wedding guests, 150 people, Ethan's family, his business associates, our friends, they're all going to know. Would you rather they didn't know what kind of man you almost married? No, you're right. Dad, be honest. He saw dollar signs, didn't he? Saw Sterling & Sons' value and thought he'd found his solution. I nodded. Truth was better than comfort. 3 weeks ago, Ethan asked me about making you a partner in Caldwell Investment Group after the wedding. Said it would combine our family's business interests. I thought it was romantic, but he was planning to use our money to pay back what he'd stolen. Emily stood up and walked to the window. Outside, news vans were gathering. Word was spreading about the FBI raid. The wedding guests, 150 people, Ethan's family, his business associates, our friends, they're all going to know. Would you rather they didn't know what kind of man you almost married? No, you're right. Dad, I owe you an apology. Emily, no. Let me say this. For months, I let Ethan make me ashamed of our family, of you, of where we came from. I watched him dismiss your friends, your accomplishments, your worth, and I said nothing. You were in love. I was a coward. I wanted to belong so badly in his world that I forgot where I belonged. I forgot who raised me, who sacrificed for me, who built everything I have. She picked up one of the client testimonies, Mary Rodriguez, 74, whose home health care fund had been emptied for Ethan's Atlantic City weekend. This woman lost her house dead because the man I was going to marry stole her savings while I was picking out flowers and trying to impress his mother. That's not your fault, isn't it? I knew Ethan was gambling. I knew he had debts. When bills started arriving at my apartment, when he started asking me about your business, about our family's assets, I ignored the red flags because I wanted the fairy tale. The kitchen phone rang. Margaret Caldwell. I let it go to voicemail. Dad, there's something else. Last month, Ethan asked me to co-sign a loan application. Said it was for a business expansion. I almost did it. Almost? I came to you, remember? Asked about potentially investing in Ethan's company. You suggested that I wait until after the wedding to make any financial commitments. I remembered. Emily was excited about joining their business interests. I'd stalled, told her to focus on wedding planning first. Something about Ethan's eagerness had bothered me. If I'd signed that loan, Emily, you'd be legally responsible for his debts. You'd have been his exit strategy. She sat back down, the full scope of Ethan's manipulation finally clear. He didn't just steal from his clients, Dad. He was planning to steal from us too. The good news is, he failed, and Monday morning, justice catches up with him. Emily looked at the evidence spread across our kitchen table. 12 families destroyed, millions stolen, lives ruined. Dad, I want to do something for these families. Mrs. Hoffman, the Chens, all of them. Sterling and Son should help them somehow. That's when I knew my daughter was going to be just fine. Saturday, 4 p.m. The Sterling family estate was buzzing with confused energy. Against all odds, Emily had made a decision. The wedding was canceled, but the gathering would go on. 150 guests had traveled for this day. They deserved to know the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. Emily stood on the back patio, still in her wedding dress, but her veil had gone. Behind her, the Hudson River sparkled in the afternoon sun. I want to explain everything. I watched from the kitchen window as our guests assembled on the lawn. Ethan's family sat in the front row. Margaret Caldwell, pale and furious, flanked by federal judges and old Westchester families. My construction crew stood in the back, uncomfortable in their borrowed suits, but loyal to the end. Senator Morrison was there, looking increasingly nervous as FBI agents took discreet positions around the perimeter as Emily's voice carried across the gathering. This morning, I learned something about the man I was supposed to marry, something that changed everything. A black Mercedes pulled up the driveway. Ethan, released on emergency bail, stepped out with his lawyer. His face was haggard, his expensive suit wrinkled from federal processing. He'd posted $500,000 bond, money that probably belonged to his victims. "Emily, what are you doing?" Ethan called, pushing through the crowd. "Telling the truth." He reached the patio, his lawyer whispering urgently in his ear. "This is a private family matter. You don't need to." Ethan Caldwell stole $2.3 million from elderly clients to fund his gambling addiction. The crowd went dead silent. You could hear the Hudson River lapping against the dock. Margaret Caldwell stood up. "This is outrageous. How dare you make such accusations?" FBI agents arrested him 6 hours ago. Wire fraud, embezzlement, securities violations. 12 families destroyed so he could play poker in Atlantic City. Ethan's face flushed crimson. "Emily, you're hysterical. The stress of the wedding, the venue problems." "There were no venue problems, Ethan. My father canceled every booking because he discovered what you really are." Every head turned toward me. I stepped out onto the patio, carrying the manila folder that had started this whole chain of events. Margaret Hoffman, 82 years old, trusted Ethan with her retirement account. He stole $180,000 for a weekend in Vegas. Ethan's lawyer grabbed his arm. "Don't say anything, not a word." Robert and Susan Chen, married 50 years, their grandson's college fund, $240,000 spent on blackjack tables while they ate pasta every night to save money. I pulled out the bank records, holding them up for everyone to see. Mary Rodriguez, 74, needed home health care after her stroke. Ethan emptied her medical fund for a poker tournament. She lost her house. Senator Morrison was edging toward his car. Several other Caldwell family associates were checking their phones, probably calling their own lawyers. But here's what Ethan really thought of all of you. 2 days ago, he called me and told me that he only wanted important people at his wedding. Said my immigrant friends wouldn't understand the language of real power. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the portable speaker Emily had set up for wedding music. Ethan went white. "Martin, don't." "The language of real power, Martin. Old money, established influence. Look, I'm not trying to be offensive, but there's a difference between new money and, well, money that's been refined over generations."
Ethan's recorded voice filled the garden. Every word, every insult, every casual dismissal of the life that had built Sterling and Sons Construction. This marriage is Emily's chance to elevate herself, to become part of something bigger than, well, bigger than where she came from. Margaret Caldwell's face was stone. Her son's voice continued from the speakers, explaining how Emily needed to leave certain things behind to be accepted by their family. "You know what, Mrs. Caldwell?" I said, stopping the recording. "Ethan was right about one thing. This marriage would have elevated Emily, from honest success to criminal accomplice. Ethan finally exploded. You sanctimonious bastard! You think you can destroy my family because we wouldn't accept your blue-collar friends? You think your construction money makes you better than 4 generations of Caldwell achievement? No, Ethan. I think my honest work makes me better than your stolen money. The crowd was riveted. This was better than any soap opera. You want to talk about achievement? I continued. Sterling & Sons Construction has employed over 600 people in 30 years, built 847 projects, contributed millions in local taxes, created jobs, built communities, earned every dollar through sweat and skill. I gestured toward his family. Caldwell Investment Group stole retirement funds from grandparents to pay gambling debts. Which family's achievement are we celebrating here? Ethan lunged toward me, his lawyer barely restraining him. I'll destroy you. My family has connections you can't imagine. Your family's connections are abandoning you faster than rats from a sinking ship. I pointed to the half-empty section where Ethan's business associates had been sitting. Senator Morrison left 20 minutes ago. Judge Whitman is in his car making phone calls. Your old money friends don't want to be photographed with a federal criminal. Emily stepped between us. Ethan, it's over. The FBI has your bank records, your client files, witness testimonies from 12 families. You're going to prison. Ethan, please, we can work through this. My lawyer says... Your lawyer says to keep quiet, because anything you say can be used against you in federal court. Margaret Caldwell finally spoke, her voice ice cold. Mrs. Caldwell, you're making a mistake. Ethan made some poor financial decisions, but Ethan destroyed people's lives for poker chips, Emily cut in. Mrs. Caldwell, while you were teaching him about social superiority, you forgot to teach him basic human decency. How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth? Ethan spent months explaining to my family that we weren't good enough for yours. Turns out your family wasn't good enough for basic honesty. FBI agent Rodriguez stepped forward. I'd called him an hour ago, suggesting he might want to witness Ethan's public statements. Mr. Caldwell, you're in violation of your bail conditions by approaching witnesses in your case. You need to come with us. This is harassment. I have rights. You have the right to remain silent, which you probably should have used 10 minutes ago. As they led Ethan in handcuffs for the second time in one day, Emily addressed the remaining guests. To Ethan's family and friends, I'm sorry you discovered this way that the man you trusted was a criminal. To my father's friends, thank you for showing me what loyalty and integrity look like. And to the families Ethan destroyed, Sterling & Sons Construction will be contacting you this week about victim assistance. The Caldwell section was nearly empty now. Old Westchester money had vanished like smoke when the truth came out. But my construction crew, my so-called unimportant immigrant friends, surrounded Emily with support and love. Margaret Caldwell stood alone by her Mercedes, her 4 generations of refinement unable to shield her from her son's crimes. Mrs. Caldwell, I called out as she reached her car, you were right about one thing. Some people never learned their place in society. Your son never learned that his place was as an honest man, not a criminal who preys on the elderly. She drove away without a word. Emily found me by the river an hour later, as the last guests were leaving. Dad, do you think I made the right choice? I looked at my daughter, beautiful, strong, finally free from Ethan Caldwell's manipulation. Honey, you made the only choice that lets you look yourself in the mirror. The Caldwells will never forgive this public humiliation. The Caldwells will be too busy with federal prosecutors to worry about us. She smiled for the first time in days. So, what happens now? Now we get back to being a family that earns respect instead of demanding it.
Monday morning, 8:47 a.m. Ethan Caldwell's arrest made the front page of the Westchester Journal News. Investment manager charged in $2.3 million elderly fraud scheme. The photo showed Ethan in handcuffs, his Princeton ring visible as federal agents led him from the courthouse. I was having coffee when Emily called from her apartment in Manhattan. "Dad, have you seen the news coverage?" "Hard to miss. Channel 12 wants an interview. They're calling it Immigrant Success versus Old Money Crime." I told them no comment. "Good choice. Let the evidence speak." 10 a.m., Margaret Caldwell called my office directly. "Mr. Sterling, I want to discuss a settlement for this misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding, Mrs. Caldwell. Your son is a criminal. The Caldwell family has contributed to this community for over a century. Surely we can reach some accommodation that protects both our reputations." "Your reputation was destroyed by your son's choices, not my actions." She hung up. By noon, the full scope of Ethan's crimes had emerged. 17 total victims, $2.7 million stolen. Federal prosecutors were seeking 8 to 12 years in prison. That evening, Emily drove up carrying Chinese takeout from our old neighborhood restaurant, the one Ethan said wasn't refined enough for Caldwell family dinners, she said with a sad smile. We ate at the same kitchen table where this whole mess had started. "Dad, I've been thinking about what you said, about earning respect versus demanding it. And I quit my marketing job today. I want to come work for Sterling & Sons Construction." I nearly choked on my lo mein. "Emily, you have a business degree from Fordham. You could work anywhere." "I want to work somewhere I'm proud of what we build, literally and figuratively." 3 months later, Ethan Caldwell was sentenced to 9 years in federal prison. He'll serve at least 7. For the 12 families Ethan robbed, Sterling & Sons Construction established a victim assistance fund. We couldn't give them back their innocence, but we could help rebuild their security. Emily officially joined the company as Director of Community Relations. Her first project, affordable housing for elderly immigrants, people like the ones Ethan had preyed on. Margaret Caldwell moved to Florida. The Caldwell estate went on the market. 4 generations of Westchester prominence ended by 1 generation's greed. Last week, Emily started dating Marcus Webb's son, a public defender who represents families Ethan would have dismissed as unimportant. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just living well, building honestly, and teaching your children that respect is earned one relationship at a time. The important people understand that. The rest never did matter anyway.